Welcome to the Real Study with your hosts, MrSniDBitS,
I was pleasantly surprised.
BlackGirlMarvel,
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
TylertheFilmmaker.
It's like so much depth. It's like nowadays it's, you got A shot, B shot.
All the movie things.
There's some great, wide shots in this.
JeannineDaBean.
Each other, they just kind of look like they were having fun and doing their own thing.
Produced by Hyena. And me, the Real Study movie voice guy.
But this was the first time where I got to see it told in a way where I was like, oh man.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to the Real Study. I am MrSniDBitS, and with me this evening is JeannineDaBean. We are the only two Real Study people here this evening, but that is okay. This evening we will be covering a couple of make-up Christmas horror movie episodes, or the episode we couldn't do. That is going to be Black Christmas 1974, the original slasher, if you will, and then Krampus 2015. We will get into those here in a few minutes, and we'll talk about next week. But before we do any of that, we want to get into the real news right away. So here we go.
Now it's time for the real news.
So as you guys might know, I would assume everybody knows at this point, since our last episode, Los Angeles has had a tremendous, terrible time of it with these horrendous fires that have broken out and are everywhere. A lot of them are under some containment, but there are still lots of challenges and lots of danger being faced by a lot of people that we know, that a lot of people that you guys might know, and just family and friends and everything down there. There are a lot of things happening that I think people should be aware of. There's fire relief funds all over the place, from GoFundMe's to the Red Cross to you name it. They're basically trying to gather as much resource and money as they can to try to do that. Even major production companies are donating a lot of money. But more than that, we want to say thank you to the people that are doing more than just that. The firefighters, obviously. Yeah. We give them all of our love and thank you for everything you're doing. There are even firefighters from all over the country, all over the world, even Mexico, Canada are sending firefighters to help. But then there's also a huge influx of people in the LA area just helping each other out. They're out there doing food donations, gathering donations. Jeanine, you were telling me one of your friends was doing some funding and some podcast funding.
Yeah. Yeah, my friend Roxy, she opened up her Venmo for donations, and her friend raised about $4,000 to just get gift cards and suitcases. And, they were calling shelters and things and seeing what are people saying they need the most. So they were getting clothes and air purifiers and all kinds of things just from donations from people. And they go shopping, they buy all the things, they drop them off, and they've been doing this, I think, for the past 3 or 4 days. So love seeing just kind of community. She just was sitting at home not knowing what to do, and wanted to do something. My friends have a YouTube channel, pretty successful YouTube channel. I think they have about 1.2 million subscribers. So they just did a live stream and were able to raise a bunch of money to donate. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Dead Meat, they did a live stream last night and were able to raise $20,000. So, and they're all, in LA. So just love seeing them come together. Love seeing that we're seeing Canada helping with planes and dropping water, and Mexican firefighters from Mexico volunteering and coming to help fight these fires. So, it's really easy nowadays to lose faith in humanity, but seeing people come together has just been really wonderful. And, my heart goes out to everyone in LA. It's a second home for me. I've been kind of making several trips back and forth there for the past 5 years. I have a whole kind of friend community up there. So my heart just goes out to everybody. And, we should do whatever we can to help, whether it be just spreading the word on where to donate, where to help. I love seeing that, people are going to volunteer and they're getting turned away because there's so many people coming to volunteer. But yeah, whatever you can do to help just rebuild.
Yeah, there is one other thing, and our hearts, even as the Real Study, and I can speak for everybody else on this panel that isn't here today, they are feeling the same way. So we all feel for everyone. My cousins down there, so we personally have family that are being affected. But I wanted to talk about how it is something you don't see as often, and it's not being talked about as much about all these people that are doing so much good in a time that's so difficult. And there's so many people that are trying to point fingers, and I don't want to get too into
Yeah.
that. But the idea that it's just rich people or any of these things, like,
Yeah.
no, it's just people
People.
of
Yeah.
varying incomes. So
Losing
yeah, a few
everything.
famous people, sure, but we shouldn't not have our heart for them as well, because they've lost things. Like, that's traumatizing, whether
Yeah.
you have money or not. That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
So I just want people to point to the positive. We really need to focus on not tearing each other down and start building each other up.
Yes,
Uh,
100%.
and let people grieve in their own time. There have been people like,
Yeah.
oh, everything will be fine. No. Let
No, yeah.
people grieve
Yeah.
with what they need. Give them space to do that. Yeah, I digress. That said, like we said, please stay safe out there, and hopefully they'll get them completely under control as the weekend finishes and we get into the beginning of the week. But we are also here to try to have fun and talk about movies and talk about positive things, because we need that in the world right now. So
Yeah.
I do have another story, but Janine, you had another story, right? You had somebody got married, maybe.
A really kind of cute story. Two of the kids from the cast of School of Rock actually got married. They, I think, met again at a reunion for the movie and didn't really communicate much. But when the actor Angelo Masagli, he found out that one of the girls was moving to his state, he asked her for coffee, and they ended up started to date, and then they recently got married. And so they had like most of the cast there. They obviously invited Jack Black, but he was filming a film, so he couldn't come.
Oh,
But he
that's a
sent
shame.
them a really sweet personal message, they said. So
Good.
yeah, Caitlin Hale is the girl actor from the film. So
Nice.
yeah, really cute that all these years later they're part of kind of this huge movie, and they would find each other again in this way and get married and reunite the cast as well. So
Right? No,
really
that's
cute.
great.
Yeah, super
Like a
cute.
20-year, oh boy, it has been 20 years, like a 20-year reunion if it went away.
Yeah. Hmm.
No, that's great. Another piece I saw that was out there is that Warwick Davis, most known for Star Wars and Harry Potter, but has been in dozens and dozens of films, and you
Yes.
may not always recognize him because he's a hell of an actor.
Yes.
He is going to be getting the BAFTA Fellowship Award, which is basically BAFTA's most prestigious award. And he said he accepted this fellowship award in honor of everyone living with dwarfism or any form of
Aw,
difference, which I
that's
thought was
awesome.
really great. So I've always loved
Yeah.
him. He's a great dude.
Yes. Give him his
Um,
flowers.
right? And I love, if you go back and watch some of the documentaries about the original Star Wars movies, there was an instance, I'm not sure if it was Harrison Ford or Mark Hamill. I think it was Mark Hamill brought him Star Wars toys on set to Return of the Jedi because he was like
He was a
14.
little kid.
He was like
Yeah.
13. He was a kid, and he was a huge fan. So when they cast him as Wicket, it really blew his mind.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to watch him kind of grow up
Yeah.
and make all these movies and things.
Yeah.
Also Willow, if you have never seen Willow,
Oh,
like, dude,
yes.
he's the hero. Mad Mardigan's great, but check out Willow. All right. So we're doing things out of a weird order tonight. So we're going to move over to the main wall, and we'll do our social media promotion. So do follow us on all social media. That landscape is, of course, in turmoil and changing constantly. So if you do see us somewhere, go ahead and give The Real Study a follow and a like. We will try to continue to post in various places. So, keep an eye, obviously here on YouTube, but
Yes.
there's also other platforms that are new, like Blue Sky. Fanbase is a new one you might find us on soon. We'll be experimenting. Just look out for us there. That said, as always, you can go to our Discord and request a movie, and we will take a look at it and either say yes, but we rarely veto. So we'll probably not say no, but we might just not watch it. I guess in a weird way, that's a veto. But anyway, you can always do that. That said, we both, since there's only two of us, we watched a bunch of movies because we're both cinephiles and watch way
Yeah.
too many movies. So we're going to get into a couple of movies we saw, and then we'll get into our main films. Janine, you got to see Nosferatu.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just feeling restless and, I decided to go to a 10:40 p.m. showing last night of Nosferatu. I'm a bit
Nice.
of an insomniac, and I hadn't seen it yet, so I just took myself to the theater and checked it out. And
Mhm.
yeah, it looked incredible, like just the cinematography, every. I think it's just generally with this director that like every shot could be like a beautiful movie still or a piece of art. Um, I was really kind of anticipating seeing what Nosferatu was going to look like in this version, and yeah, very very creepy. But I did like the design. I think I've heard that the look of him was pretty divisive.
Really?
Yes, yeah. Generally, I liked, it stayed pretty faithful to the original telling of the story, adding a lot more in there with the Ellen character. So I found that to be really interesting. And just liked the world it created, the mood of it, the vibe of it. I've heard people describe it as pretty horny, which it
Oh, it's a
is.
horny movie. Okay, that's good to
Yeah, it's a
know.
little horny. But yeah,
But it's
generally,
gothic
I
horror, so isn't that
yes.
like part of gothic horror?
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, I was definitely feeling the vibes of Nosferatu. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm hearing people kind of split a little bit on aspects of it. Generally, I think people like it, but are split on certain elements of it. But I enjoyed it.
I already know that I'm likely going to enjoy it because I like Eggers films. I think he does a great job.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse, as slimy is a good word for that movie. As that
Yeah.
movie is, it's still really good. Performance is amazing. The look of it is amazing.
Yes, great
So I can
performances
imagine,
and
translating
wow.
to
Yeah.
Nosferatu, like it's like a natural choice. Now, is it still because people are talking about it being a shot-for-shot remake of the original, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
No, definitely not. There's some really great visual cues to the original film. The kind of obviously the silhouette, they could not do this movie and not have the Nosferatu silhouette in
Right.
there, the
What
shadowed
about him on the ship,
hands.
right? When he's coming up out of the is that scene in there somewhere?
Um, I don't remember. I think it's in there, but he's more just kind of in shadow and then kind of
Okay.
appears. Like so somebody's kind of walking and we see him, but the person doesn't see him.
Okay.
So, I think it might be a little too heavy on the jump scares for some people, but there's one in the opening that's really good, and then kind of from there it gets a little bit like, okay, so we don't need all of these jump scares.
Right?
But yes, but generally, I really enjoyed it. I liked the mood, the vibe. I like that they, really paid homage to the original with a lot of very specific, notable shots, but did their kind of own thing with it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's good. I'm glad that they because I
Yeah.
think an adaptation is important. What's really weird, I just heard an interview, well, a little snippet of an interview with Orson Welles last night, where he was talking about how you shouldn't saturate yourself with cinema if you're going to be a good filmmaker, because you
Yeah.
do the homage, and he was like complaining about how the homage is the worst piece of trash in cinema, which is funny because a second later he
Yeah.
goes, but honestly, if we're talking about true cinema people, they are saturated in film and they rise above that. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what the homage does. It helps to rise above that, in my opinion, right?
Yes. Yes. It's
So,
you, calling out your love for something that somebody did well, but then also kind of putting your own spin on it.
right,
So
right.
yeah.
I don't know. It's like wearing the colors of your favorite player, or like I don't know. They're not out there playing for you,
Yeah.
but you're still representing their honor. You're standing on their
Yeah.
shoulders, kind
Maybe
of
it's
thing.
it's like Disney bounding. It's like you take inspiration from a character, but you're putting your own spin on it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that's what I was hoping. So it sounds like you and we line up on taste quite a bit. Not always, obviously, because I
Yeah.
don't think two people will ever be exactly the same on taste,
Yeah.
or they'd be clones.
Yes. Well, except maybe me and Brian, because we're always copying each other. But
You are, yeah. So it's always weird. The Real Study, we've always had groups of people because like Law and MrSniDBitS like, would always
clusters.
copy each other, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what are you? I'm glad I'm over here. I'm just anyway.
Doing your own thing. Yeah.
So as you always do, go for the classics. I still continue to try to tackle the classics, and I went for the sci-fi classic Metropolis, which is of course
Yes.
the 1927 film. And this is another German film. Nosferatu, the
Mhm.
original, is of course a German film.
Yes.
And how I waited this long to
Yeah.
watch this movie is baffling me. I do watch silent films at like 1.5 speed, to be honest, just because my ADHD can't just watch at the normal speed they
Same.
have them
Yeah.
at. But it works if you speed them up and you're okay with them looking a little kind of jonky as they move. It works. But the visuals in this film alone are worth
Incredible.
watching.
Yes,
There's a
scale.
moment where the machine. This is like my absolute favorite moment in the movie. The machine is this thing. It's like it's an actual mechanism that the people have to run, and they go to it. And as they're moving, they look like the gears in the machine as they're moving around. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful. And there's elements of so many things. There's an element of Siddhartha or Buddha, if you will, where it's the son of a rich man realizing the world is a terrible place and then trying to better it. That is, it's really basic, but you have that concept. There's concepts of Christianity and the Tower of Babel. There's concepts of Hinduism. There's all sorts of little peppered in things. But the biggest motif is, of course, the labor movement. And it is like right front and center. This movie is as relevant when it was made in 1927 as it is today.
Yeah, it's
maybe
crazy. Those
even
concepts still translate. Yeah.
right, but maybe even a little more important today. I think people need to really look at this movie and understand what it means. But it also tells me humans haven't changed. Only technology has changed, but we're still the same.
Yes, status and division in that aspect, and hierarchies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, good versus evil, rich versus poor. Like this movie's got it all. But what's crazy, and I know you know this because I know you've seen it, but when you watch it, you'll go, "Oh, hey, Star Wars. Oh, hey, The Matrix. Oh, hey, all these science fiction movies that you love are just like right there, like very clearly." There was even a moment, and I know this isn't true, but there was a moment when I was like, "Oh, they're raging against the machine." And I was like, no way did they come up with that. It's not possible that this came from this, but in the part of me, in a weird way, it does, because it's the same concepts, right? It's the same ideas that they were saying in their songs that fit. So it's just weird that it was there, but I was like, wow, I felt inspired in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's worth. I'm gonna rewatch it. It's worth watching more than once.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and the special effects with the robot.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, the machine man is what they call it. But those orbs, like I don't know how they do that in 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sets, or even the opening with like the marching workers, like all of that. Anyway, I digress. Beautiful film. Definitely 10 out of 10. Check this out. If you haven't watched it in 97 years, do it now.
And don't watch it on Tubi.
No, watch it on YouTube. So it was really great that you said that to me. So Janine kind of caught me as I was talking about watching it. Yeah, she was like, "Don't watch it on Tubi. It has this repetitive, crappy soundtrack, which is the same song, like repeated every 2 minutes. Like, really repetitive."
Yes.
And I started to go, "This sucks. Is this what they listened to in the theater? I would have walked out."
Exactly. Yeah, I watched the whole thing because we're covering it for It's a Wonderful Podcast, and I was like, no. And so then I talked to Morgan. He's like, no, there's the version with this, great score. And I was like, I thought I had heard that they had redone a score for this. Right. And so then I found that version on YouTube. So it's fairly cheap to rent on YouTube, and you can watch it there. And
there's a free one. Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I got it for free.
Nice.
The question about that score, though, because a lot of film in that era, pre-1940 really, is just music they made to go along with the film, but it wasn't until the 30s and 40s that they were like soundtracks, right? They really...
Yes.
So I wonder if it was really the true original music or if a more modern composer did it, because
once it was kind of remastered and...
Right, because the beats are very... They fit really nicely. Like the music fits the ups and downs, and it actually kind of guides you, much like Star Wars and other films like that. Even the lead actress, I noticed it was weird. I kept thinking of I forget her first name, Najimy, the actress from Hocus Pocus.
Oh, Kathy Najimy.
Kathy Najimy. I swear she watched this actress and was like, I like this idea, and kind of took from it. Because the main actress she's a very kind of normal character, but she plays the robot too, so she's both. And when she's the robot, she's got wild facial expressions, and she's all over the place, and she's like really drastic and doing things like
yes,
this,
and that's what I love about silent film as well. Like, you see them, they really have to emote and use their faces and their bodies to convey the performance, because obviously you're not hearing them. So that's
and that written dialogue, you're like, is that their voice? It's we were talking about it last week, eyebrow acting. Like they solidified eyebrow acting, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Because what else did you have? So yeah, you had another movie you watched this week that you wanted to talk about. The way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, so this is one I've seen before. I was doing my weekly podcast questions for our show Morgan Hasn't Seen, and I asked the question, what's your favorite coming of age drama? And so when I answered the question for myself, I said The Way Back. And in kind of talking about it for this short video, I was like, I kind of want to put that on and watch it. So yeah, I put it on and just revisited this film. It's such a great movie. For those who don't know the story, it's just about this kid named Duncan. He goes to this summer vacation town with his mother and her horrible boyfriend who treats her terribly. Boyfriend played by Steve Carell. So he's like a perfect kind of villain in this movie. Just kind of constantly verbally picking on this kid, putting him down, condescending to him. So he really has very low self-esteem, low self-confidence until he kind of wanders around and he finds this water park run by Sam Rockwell. And he ends up secretly kind of getting a job there and he makes friends and he finds confidence. And so it's just a really heartwarming story. And it's really funny, but also really emotional, just kind of seeing the struggles of this kid and, having to kind of navigate this situation and how he's treated. So really, really love this movie.
I'm 100% with you there. I've seen this a couple of times. Sam Rockwell. I mean, but I don't have to say anything else. Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, written and directed by Nick Faxon and Jim Rash, who also appear in the movie.
Right.
Jim Rash winning an Oscar for writing The Descendants, I believe. He's the dean in Community. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. This film, being a person that grew up, looking the way I do, I related so well to this character, to the Duncan character.
Yeah.
Because this is the awkwardness of going on a vacation with your family. And Toni Collette,
is his mother.
in this one.
Yeah.
She's played a mom for a while now.
Yeah.
But she's good at it. But yeah, it hits really, really well. I really enjoy kind of overall the way back. Just feels the feel of the film is really great.
Yeah. Sam Rockwell's incredible as this character who's also kind of this huge kid and needs to find a way to grow up, and in him kind of mentoring Duncan, I think he kind of finds this sense of responsibility that he's needing to kind of move forward with his life, and they kind of, almost find something in each other and learn from each other in a lot of ways. So their relationship is super special. One of my favorite parts of the movie.
But then there's, of course, watch the movie if you haven't seen it. I don't want to ruin it. All right, so I did see another movie. Well, let me preface this. I have been trying to watch a single movie every single day. I'm trying to get to 365 this year just because my numbers last year bothered me. I didn't get nearly the number of films I wanted, and I'm like, I've only got so many years left. I better get as many as I can. So I've been going, but then my wife's like, well, what do you want to watch this movie? And I'm like, well, I haven't seen that yet. Well, I guess I could watch 2 today. And then so I'll watch 2. And so now I'm at 11 films. No, wait, 13 films in 12 days. So I still have another film I want to watch tonight to keep those 2 in the bank. Anyway, one of those was The Conclave. And if you want to follow along with MrSniDBitS, and all the movies I'm watching, social media, etc. But I watched The Conclave, or Conclave, sorry.
I haven't seen that.
This one is, so you're going to go into it going, okay, so this is a movie about picking the new pope. Okay, great. How can that be exciting? And I will tell you right now, it is wildly exciting. If you know
I've
a little
heard
bit about
some
the
weird,
Catholic Church,
like Mean Girls references, like and
I
was
would say
kind
that.
of confused about really that's the
There's
vibe?
a cat and mouse
Curious.
aspect. There's an element of who can you trust. It's basically all the archbishops and cardinals and whatnot are getting together to pick the pope, and the way it works is everybody sits in a room and they all vote, and then there's a lot of ceremony, but the ceremony adds to the element of like tension, so it's worth going through all these ceremonies. And there was a lot of Latin, so pay attention to the subtitles. I'm sorry, yes, you have to read this movie a little bit, but the voting happens, and then after each vote they kind of all go out and try to start finagling each other politically to like, no, pick this guy for pope, pick this guy for pope. And it's kind of the breakdown of that and how it all works. What really sells this film are the actors, and it is, some hella seasoned actors that are bringing their A game. Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow,
Okay.
Isabella Rossellini, all
wow.
bringing their A game, and you don't know, you just want. I don't know. It's so crazy. I was saying this to Aina before the show. If you were watching this without sound, or like watching somebody watch it as you were like walking in and out of the room, you'd be like, "Does anything happen in this movie?" Because it looks like the same kind of things happening over and over
Yeah.
again. But because those things are happening and you're hearing what's happening, it's building the tension. So it's really pretty outstanding. There is stuff to spoil in this movie, so don't spoil it for people, which is weird. I didn't expect that, but there's some spoily stuff. But definitely worth the watch. 2 hours, so it's not too long. But the other thing that does this movie justice is the cinematography is holy crap phenomenal. The lighting, the way that every scene is kind of broken down, there are just beautiful moments that just kind of stand out or breathtaking, much like you were saying about Nosferatu. There's shots that you could just take out and be like, I'm gonna frame this because it's just that beautiful. So
Okay.
worth a watch.
Definitely
Absolutely.
check it out.
Yeah, lots of movies. If you watch too many movies, that you start to lose them. It's a little tricky. So the other reason I watch these movies, we do right before I would do the show, so they're fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we are going to move into those movies. So this is a makeup episode for Christmas. We were going to do a horror Christmas and then regular Christmas, and then we didn't, and la. Well, no, La was here. bad joke. Got to keep those puns rolling even when no one's...
Yes, 100%.
So we were going to do Black Christmas, 1974, and Krampus. And so we're going to just do it now because there's still horror movies and you can watch horror movies any time of year. So why not? So let's talk about Black Christmas. I had never seen it before. Have you?
Oh, really? Yes. I've seen it a few times.
Okay.
I've now seen all 3 iterations of this film. So
I found a fourth one.
What?
There's a fourth iteration. They tried to gender bend it, and it's a fraternity instead of a sorority house.
Is it still called? Does it have like a different name? And it's like
Nope, still called Black Christmas, and it gets an even lower rating than the 2023 one, whichever one that was.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah, so whatever the newer one is.
Yeah,
that gets
which
hard.
have you seen any of the other?
I saw the 2006 one, which is weird because it's not even the same characters, but whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the same Billy and Agnes and all of the kind of characters he mentions, the killer mentions on the phone, but they just kind of flesh out his story. But yeah, everyone else is different.
Which is weird, but hey, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I love it when people come in and say terrible things. How about we remove that? Cool, thanks. Yeah, troll us, you're just gonna get blocked. We don't. Yeah, we come to talk about real movies, not pornography. So I guess as tradition states, the person that's never seen the movie should go first.
Yeah.
So I will take the lead on this one. I like the bookending nature of this film. I like how at the beginning and the end you're kind of right where you were when you started.
Yeah. Outside of this sorority house. Yeah.
Right. But you get to go in and get to check out what's going on. Hello, Batsy.
Hey.
I had watched Smile 2 the night before watching this, which was probably a mistake. Because Smile 2 is extremely gory, like really like almost gut-wrenching gory. And this is not that. This is the opposite of that. Being a 74, it was the first time, they're doing this.
Yeah, which is kind of funny how slashers developed, and this is kind of seen as one of the earliest first kind of things, but it's not as gory as, what would come after with Texas Chainsaw and then Halloween and then,
Right. And then in the 80s, it was no holds barred, right? It was just
yeah.
But Smile 2 showed me that they're still trying to push that bar. Like they're still trying to push it as far as they can get it. But I did get an element of not Argento in form, but in look. So the scenes were shot in that like hiding it, a little bit of red blood kind of situation.
Yes, and
Um,
even like the really stylized unicorn with the killing with the glass and all of that felt
right.
very giallo kind of thing.
It did, and I think that's where they were like, well, hey, the Italians did it, and they did it in a way that people accepted. Maybe we can do the same.
Yeah.
What I did notice was that this was Halloween without Michael Myers. Like it really was still basically the same movie where it's just this killer stalking young girls that are
Yes.
sinning, you know, if
Mhm.
you will. So anyway, you watched it multiple times. What did you think this
Yes.
time?
So, yeah, I kind of was just trying to look at other things, look at different things maybe I didn't really notice, and maybe take a comparative look as this kind of has this moniker as like one of the first slashers or the thing to kind of kick off the genre, which is my favorite horror subgenre. And yeah, I like that, it kind of differentiates itself in terms of we don't really ever meet our killer, and I don't think we ever really need to. I think
Right.
not seeing him or meeting him makes it even scarier. And then even just at the end, how we kind of reveal that he's still kind of looming and the phone ringing and all of that, and nothing's all right.
Nothing's
It's
changed.
very, yes, it's very unsettling. Which, I I like when horror can scare me. As a horror fan, we have become very numb to that. So when horror can actually genuinely scare us, like, it's kind of a fun feeling for me in particular. But um yeah, I loved just obscuring our killer, kind of seeing a really not a super smooth POV. It was kind of jittery and janky to kind of um play off of this character's mental state and
Hmm.
disorient us as we're kind of in his POV. So I liked things like that. I like this film kind of tackling this bigger issue of abortion and that kind of plot point, as I don't think maybe a lot of films were even talking about that.
Well, it was
And
still a new
considering,
issue in a sense. Like,
yes, and
I
considering
mean,
I think
not
this was
new
this was a
being legal in that sense.
yeah, and this was a Canadian film, so I don't know if they had different kind of discussions around this
Oh,
than in America.
good point.
Um, so maybe that's why they felt more comfortable kind of tackling this subject matter. But I think that informed our final girl as well, kind of her making this choice and not letting her boyfriend bully her. Um, and it
And boy,
also
did
kind of,
he,
oh yes, he was terrible.
right?
Um, and I think that also
And
kind of
terrible at
played.
the piano too. Like it was obvious he sucked at it.
Yes. Right? He was so terrible and just sweating and like, yeah, he was messing
The
everything up.
hair, like he kept trying to get the
Yeah,
sweaty
yeah.
hair out of
Isn't
his
he the
face.
guy from 2001, I think?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And also I think that just helped to inform make him being the villain or people thinking that maybe he was the killer.
See,
So
which I love that aspect of the
yeah.
ending where you've got this. It's obvious the killer's still in the house, right?
Yeah.
Which means she killed Peter without asking him if he did it.
And yeah, because he was just coming at her crazy. So she was just like,
But
well,
what
I
he was
guess you
saying
must
felt
be.
awkward, but I thought she meant him like, did you do it? Why are you coming after me? But no, she just
Yeah.
straight up killed him. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
like, okay. And I don't know how I didn't put together that that Olivia is the same actress that was in Romeo and Juliet, and she of course just
Mhm.
passed away recently.
Yeah, and
Rest in
the It
peace.
miniseries, yeah.
Which
Yeah.
miniseries? I don't remember which
She was
miniseries
in
she was in.
the
Oh, yes,
The
it
Tim Curry.
1990.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, she was
absolutely.
in that as well. So, yeah, I mean, she's kind of a notable final girl that I think people don't really talk about, Jess. The fact that despite kind of hearing the kind of big moment of, the calls are coming from inside the house and still wanting to, you know, run into the fire and check on her friends. So you could either read that as stupid or you could read that as, okay, this girl's really, knows
Brave.
what she's up against and brave. But at least, I think it would have been worse if she went up there not knowing. But the
Right.
fact that she knows what to look out for, that somebody is potentially there, she gets a weapon and she goes into there. Okay. I feel like that plays better than her just blindly kind of going up there um,
I
to,
agree.
to kind of figure things out.
She
But
yelled a lot of times too, which is good, but also not good. You
yeah,
shouldn't be yelling like that.
right? Like I would have
Um,
just gone, I would have been like, sorry, I love you girls, but deuces, and I probably would have dipped out. I must say, but I commend her for going and checking on her friends. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and even just how she handled the whole situation with her boyfriend, I think, she should be more in conversations when it comes to Final Girls for sure.
I agree with that. The character of Nash, Sergeant Nash, is kind of the heel of the entire film.
Yeah.
They make fun of him
Oh
constantly.
yeah.
And he's even told, he's the main detective, even says, John Saxon's character
Ugh, John Saxon.
says, if you screw this up, I'm going to kill you. And he screwed it up.
Yes. Okay, so how
Yeah.
would you handle this phone call? Because it's very much like he's trying to finesse it. He's trying to do what he was told, but she keeps trying to do other
I would have
things.
lied to her.
Okay.
I would have personally said, the lieutenant is out coming down the street right now. He needs you to get out there so he can talk to you right now. That's all I would have said. I would have just said, you got to get out there because
Just
he's on his way. He
yes,
wants to talk
okay.
to you.
Because I'm like trying to think
And
how what would be the best way to get her out of the house without telling her the thing that he was told not to tell her.
right. And then,
Because she's
but what I loved
determined
is
to
he
check
just
on
like,
her friends.
"Bah!"
Yeah.
He like screams it at her. Like, he's in the house. Like,
Yes.
why did you do that?
Yeah.
Margot Kidder plays one hell of a person in this movie. I wouldn't say she's a nice person. She's definitely abrasive and
Yeah.
a lot drunk.
Yes, and I think this is a film that, sets up those slasher archetypes. Like, so you have
Right.
kind of your party girl and your kind of more brainy girl, and then your, wholesome final girl. But then also our final girl isn't very wholesome because she's talking
Right.
about getting an abortion and all that
Well,
kind
the
of thing.
real
So,
wholesome girl is the one that dies right away, and her dad comes
yes,
to like try to save her.
yes,
Figure out
which
what's going on
I
with her.
kind of love that her death image is like always just kind of on a lot of the posters and covers, her just with that plastic bag,
Right.
uh, kind of
That's
this
the most
freeze frame.
brutal kill in the whole movie, in my opinion.
Yes, and it's just
And it's the
sat in
first
that
one.
window. Yeah.
Right.
And we also kind of close on zooming out from that at the end of the
Right.
film as well. It's just really kind of a harsh image. But yeah, I like that this film kind of sets up this idea of archetypes with your characters. And that kind of is something that I think definitely goes forward as we get more and more films like this.
Right. Andrea Martin, of course, comes back as the sorority house mom in the
Yeah, in
2006 version,
2006. Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
It's weird because as I was watching this movie, I was like, how do uber religious people not watch a movie like this and go, these sinners are getting what they deserve? It really throws my brain off because I'm like, this is literally saying this girl is sinning, she dies. That girl is sinning, she dies.
Yeah.
And yet there's this like pushback, like these are terrible because people are dying. I'm like, that's weird. That's weird to me, but hey, I digress.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of these movies, even the Friday the 13th series, is very much like if you sin, you die.
Yes, which is what made Scream so smart when it kind of called out this kind of trending idea that people were kind of putting on these films or seeing in these films, this pattern of, if you kind of act a certain way, you'll be okay. But even Jess, ultimately you could say that she survived, but things aren't kind of wholly all right. So punishment or karma to people who, think what she's doing is wrong, could still be coming for her. So
Right. Yeah, no, it's weird. It's the film, it does both. It tells you that these people should be allowed to be who they are, but at the same time, they're dying for doing that. And so it's this
yeah.
really weird, but I see how it set it up. I see how many movies after this were like, oh, that works. Like you can really
Yes,
run with
we have
that.
these different personalities and how they handle these situations differently. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it after I watched it, I was like, so John Carpenter watched Black Christmas and then went like, I'm just gonna make the killer have a background and then put it in black and white. And there's Halloween.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just, he did it what 4 or 5 years later, 4 years later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
78.
and it hit the right time. I guess there had been enough of these that there was like an appetite for them. So when his
Yeah.
hit, it just boom, it exploded.
Took off. Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to go back to the earlier films for this
Yeah.
reason.
And did you like that the kills were, you didn't really see a lot of blood and stuff like that? Did you like that they were less gory?
I can appreciate it and I understand why, but as a person who's seen, everything under the sun other than like really terrible, I'm not going to watch uh, Serbian film or anything like that, or
Yeah.
even Human Centipede. But if you go, from gory, upper gory down, I'll watch them. So getting to this, like I said, it's kind of like watching an after school special horror film. In a way, especially after
Yeah.
I watched Smile
Yeah.
2 and then watched this, I was like, well, that had mouth demons in it. So like, I don't know, like not quite the same. It's just a breathy dude, but at the same time, I think because I always try to put, right. I always try to put myself in the era, right? So in 1974, serial killers were really kind of in a way rampant, at least in the news. Like they're probably always out there, but they were like being talked about. You had Bundy and Manson and others out there doing things. So this film hitting at the same time, and they got away, much like the Zodiac Killer.
Oh yeah, because there's no cameras, there's no easy way to spread information or find these people or see these people. Yeah, everything was very kind of undercover. So I like that this killer's kind of shrouded in all of that kind of mystery, and we don't see him. We just kind of hear his creepy voices, and
which in a way means he could be any of the real killers that people are dealing with in the 70s anyway. So like for all they know, it's Ted Bundy. For all they know, it's somebody else. So putting myself in that frame of mind of the mid 70s. I could see how this movie would be utterly terrifying, especially as a woman. Like I would be like, great, everybody's going to abandon me in my house and I'm going to die because I'm just at my sorority house. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and there's some killer in my attic calling me from inside my own house. So.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I've asked Batsy about that one. I was like, because is this where that line came from? But apparently that's when a stranger calls, that had like the call is coming from inside the house.
Yes, like that exact line is more from when a stranger calls.
But it's weird because I'm like, they watched this and then we're like, we're gonna change this to be a little tighter, basically, and just plug it over, because they say that, right? There's a moment where they're like, he's calling you from inside the house.
Which is funny because when a stranger calls, that aspect of the film is literally of just the beginning, and then it goes into a whole different thing the whole rest of the film. Yeah.
Almost like they're doing this. I don't know. I can see with old films how they like sprinkle down through time. It's
so this is a fun experiment to kind of look at this film, and I'm curious to watch Peeping Tom, because that is kind of always seen as or ignored as the first real kind of POV,
because that one's even gorier than this one.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So that's definitely one that's been on my list to kind of check out to really get a taste of this evolution.
Right. We've watched a whole bunch of like, the what is the documentaries on horror films? Into Darkness. There's 3 of them. We've watched those, and then several other horror documentaries, and we love watching kind of the progress of horror over the years. And that was one of the films that got brought up. That I still haven't seen, which is sad.
Yeah.
It'll go on my list for this year because I'm struggling to find 365.
Well, if you ever need any recommendations.
Yeah. I don't think that's not an honest, truthful statement, because my watch list alone has 900. But when I went through it, I was like, what am I in the mood?
What do you feel like watching at a certain time? Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
always things I think to put on, but then I'm like, I just feel like, I'm going to do some work and do some other things. I need to put something on that I've seen already, kind of thing. Yeah.
So that's something I haven't been able to do. I've been in the mood to watch certain movies, but I'm like, but I have this goal, so I can't like put movies on that I've seen, because then I won't make my goal. So I'm kind of depriving myself, which also means in 2026, I'll be able to be like, oh, what do I really want to watch, and just put on what I love. Because I don't think I'm going to do this for more than one go. Because it's a big lofty goal.
It's a task. Like I've tried to take on certain things, and I've dropped them halfway through, and kind of caught up with them later and all that kind of thing. So
well, if I go too far, I will never catch up. So I have to be careful. But at the same time, like I put on Chef the other day because I adore that film, and that's a movie that I'll put it on the background, and then I'll stop and I'll watch.
Watch it, yeah.
So I love movies for that. All right. Do you want to say anything else about Black Christmas?
No, just this is a film that I really have a lot of respect for. So
I agree. I think it definitely has its place where it belongs on for a reason. It definitely fits. In horror, not just, it's not really even a Christmas movie. It just happens at Christmas.
At Christmas time, yeah.
Right, there's no Christmas spirit in this. There's no like uplifting any of those ideals. It's literally just a killer at Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I would call this a Christmas movie, but that's me, and that's a whole nother debate. So go ahead and let's rate it. Go ahead and rate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this film a solid 8.
All right. Wow, that is a solid rating. I'm going to give it a 7 because while I appreciate it, I did find myself kind of going, "Oh, that could have been a much more fancy kill."
A little, yeah,
You know,
a little harder.
and it was a little too ASMR with the breathing and the, all that
Yeah,
for me.
and the phone call stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but creepy. Like I'll give them that. That whoever was on that line was good.
Yes.
Yeah, what they were doing. So yeah, there you go. If you haven't checked out Black Christmas, you're weird. You're like me, and you waited too long. But do check it out if you haven't.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Absolutely. So we did have another movie, which is weirdly, this is Michael Dougherty. Or is it Michael? No, I screwed that up. It's not Michael. There I go again. Right? SniDBitS never getting it right.
It might be Michael Dougherty.
Is it Michael? Oh, of course, my camera wants to tweak out now. Okay. It is.
Yeah, see,
Michael
you know
Dougherty.
what
I
you're
was totally
talking
right.
about.
Yeah, I'm 100% right. Now I go judging myself too harshly. So Michael Dougherty has directed all of like 4 films. 2 of them you've probably never heard of, and then the other 2 are this, Krampus, and Trick or Treat. And so he's basically like our go-to holiday horror film guy, if you will. I think the other ones were he wrote and directed the newer Godzilla films, and Godzilla versus King Kong or whatever, which, they are what they are.
Yeah.
So let me let you go first with Krampus. I'm assuming you've seen this one before.
Yes, many a time. Really love this film. I love a good ensemble story. So this cast is great. Toni Collette coming up again for me as a mom in this one. Yeah, I like the progression of the story. I like how it kind of starts out this kid just being very disillusioned with Christmas, and his terrible cousins just being assholes and kind of just ruining the whole experience for him. Dysfunctional family, that's always kind of fun to watch and a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I loved the story of this. I loved the vibes of this. The horror aspects are really well done. Just as we kind of lose characters bit by bit, in this kind of capture aspect more than just like a kill aspect. The kind of magical elements that happen are really creepy. I will say my one issue is like Krampus himself. It just kind of looks like a costume. It was very much giving me like the fake monsters in the village.
Interesting.
As like the face doesn't really emote or do very much. It's just kind of like this big hanging jaw with a long tongue. So it felt a lot like a costume. I think the best it looked was in the scene where it's chasing the sister and like jumping from rooftop to rooftop. That was really
a creepy scene.
Yes, but generally I think when we kind of see him, it just looks like a fakey kind of just big bulky costume. And if your movie is Krampus, you want, Krampus to be great and look really good. So that would be kind of my one criticism.
I like the kind of dead look of it. It looks like it's been frozen in time in a sense, and the opposite of a Jolly Saint Nick, if you will. So while you would expect life and rosy cheeks and all that, the opposite would be a dead, lifeless face. So I guess I'm headcanoning it and trying to explore.
Filling in those gaps.
But I see what you
mean.
Yeah. It does look weird. There is an actor in there, really, which is cool.
Yes.
But you can't always tell in movies. It could just be a statue. It could be anything. This is it's a ride because you don't expect kind of the way this will play out. If you haven't seen it, spoilers, of course. But I like that this plays out in a dark, twisted way, much like Trick or Treat. I like movies that aren't always perfectly perky at the end, where you have to live with the consequences of your decisions, even if you're 12. I hate that the sister, who's like nice, gets killed like right away. And then all the
Yeah.
little shithead kids get to live
And
longer.
we
Like,
follow them.
right,
Yeah, because like, there were
right,
these most really nice moments where he talks about wanting to spend more time with his sister, and
right,
she kind of seems a bit receptive to that, and she seems kind of protective to him in a lot of ways. So
right,
for her to kind of ditch the family and then just be gone the whole movie, yeah, that was kind of a bummer.
right. It also seems like Krampus has this ability to. I don't think that you're put in the bubble right away. I think that happens later, but he can put you in another dimension because there are like almost like WandaVision, the bubble in a way.
Yeah,
He's created a place where it looks like what you know, but it's not what you
it's
know.
definitely not. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, and I just like what you talked about with not knowing kind of where it's gonna go, what's gonna take out which character next, and who's gonna be left, and also kind of this great holiday lore. It's very much like Trick or Treat, these kind of rules of Halloween that you weren't kind of aware of. This film kind of setting up these rules of Christmas. If you
mhm.
lose all faith and you don't believe in it, then that's when Krampus will come. So I love getting that kind of little extra layer of of something very familiar to us. We hear all these little things about Christmas that everybody knows that are kind of commonplace rules about the holiday. So when you get
Right.
something new about it, it's really cool. I think I kind of came across that as well. We recently covered the Phantom Carriage on my other podcast, and that kind of sets up this whole figure around New Year's Eve, this ghostly carriage driver that will come, and every year the last person to die at the stroke of midnight on New Year's then takes over and becomes the carriage driver for that year. So I
Oh,
love kind of this idea of
that's like death or dead like me in a sense, where like they have a bunch of rebirths.
yeah, so I like this kind of rule for the holiday where, this is this like old time lore that, continues on that I had no idea about. So I like that, I didn't
Yeah,
really know anything about this Krampus character. We know all the kind of good things about Christmas, but,
right.
we don't know what happens on the bad side of things if you, choose not to believe. And like I love the Puffs Plus Kleenex commercial that we get with the grandma's story. We
Right.
go back with that animation and her kind of giving her story about, when Krampus came for her. So she has lived it and knows it and can kind of give us this little story break in between everything that's happening.
I love the grandma in this. I love that this is a German folktale, and so they
Yeah.
did tie in the whole German folklore. She's from Germany. Um, and I love the aunt, as much as you hate her, has some of the better lines in the film.
Yeah.
Um, she said we're
I,
fucked. You speak German? No, I've just been living long enough to
long enough,
know,
yeah.
when
Yeah.
somebody
When
means
life's
that.
coming at you with his pants down.
With his
Yeah.
pants down, right? I love that.
Yes. And we
Hello,
do get
no
a
more
scene
late
of
fees.
her. Hey. And we do get a scene of her getting told off for being, having this crappy attitude. So
Right.
we got to dig in there for her. So now we can kind of like her from
We can
here
like
on
her.
out.
And same with
Yeah.
oh God, what is his name? The actor who
David
always plays
Koechner.
Keckner, that's the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
He's so like, this might be one of his best roles because he plays that stereotypical character that he generally plays,
Yes.
the
And then the
balding
shift
kind of
that happens
asshole.
with him and
Yeah.
Adam Scott kind of bonding after a certain point
He's
in
like, I'm
protecting their
starting to
family.
like you, which I
Yeah.
love that.
Right.
The whole
Yes.
cookie
Yes.
scene, of course, that's why I picked that for the intro or for the promo,
Yes.
because I love that whole sequence.
Yeah. It's so great. And the dog
Angry
coming in
cookies,
clutch.
man.
Yeah.
Right? And his dog coming in clutch. I love that.
Yeah.
The fact that they just take the children, like, that makes this a true horror film.
Oh yeah.
The kids
No
keep
one is
getting
safe.
eaten and
Yeah.
stolen, and the elves are evil, and
Yeah.
the
No one
Christmas
is no one is
toys are
safe.
not cool.
Yes.
This
Toni Collette just
felt.
needs to stay out of attics.
She really does. I agree with you on that. But it's funny because to me, this would be a good blueprint for how to make Nightmare Before Christmas the live action film. Because
Yeah.
the toys and everything would be perfect for the toys they give to the kids in that film.
Yes. Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
be interesting. They should never make that movie. I'm sorry I put that in the universe. We
It'll
don't
happen,
ever
I'm
make it
sure.
back.
I'm sure
It,
it'll
it will.
happen.
But who would they get to play Jack? How do you skinny up somebody like that?
Yes. Because like they can barely do it in the parks without it looking weird.
It looks
So
so dumb.
yeah.
Sally's different. She's got meat on the bones. Well,
Yeah. So she could
she's
definitely
got
be a person. Yeah.
leaves on the bones. I guess maybe. Yeah. Anyway, So yeah, they could find somebody for Sally easily, but it'd probably be like Lily Rose Depp or somebody that would play Sally.
Yeah. Mhm.
Who would play Jack? Timothy Chalamet's pretty skinny.
I mean, yeah, that could work. I could see it.
And he can sing. And he can
Yeah, I mean, we
sing.
saw it in Wonka. Yeah.
Okay, Chalamet. Only you. Only you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen. No, not really. Don't make it happen.
There is something, to be said about the in-laws in this film, because everybody always feels this way about their in-laws. But of course, they do run with a very specific stereotype with these in-laws.
Yeah.
And it's weird because the sister relationship, you can tell that Tony's sister relationship, there was one, and her sister's just kind of dumb and doesn't
Yeah, and
really.
it kind of deteriorated over time, that she kind of elevated herself to have a better career and all these things,
Right.
and kind of looks down on her sister for kind of still being that trailer park kind of person.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though I think they all were at one point. She obviously seems
Yes,
like she was
and
at one point.
she definitely tried to distance herself from that, and so her sister's kind of just this reminder of maybe that old life. Like I think they set up these characters well enough, we get interaction well enough that things that are unsaid, you can kind of paint that picture, and I think those are the best moments of writing good characters, is that they give you enough that you can fill in those puzzle pieces for yourself, and we are able to do that with a lot of these characters, which I think is really great.
Well, especially like with showing the picture or the interaction with the aunt and various things kind of fill that in. I do like how her sister is the badass of the group in a sense. Like she goes to town on those critters.
Oh yeah.
In the attic, like she doesn't mess around.
Oh yeah, when she sees don't come after my kids. Yeah.
Right. And I feel that I'm like, as a parent, I'm like, that's the way I would be acting. Like I don't understand people who are like screaming and running the other way, and the baby gets left in the truck.
The car,
Then the baby gets left in the middle of the room when the elves are invading. Why is nobody conscious of this baby?
Of this baby? Yes, the most helpless one of the group. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel so like I'm just like, I have a baby. That baby would be wrapped in my arms, and I'd be turned around taking shots to the back, if you will.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's weird, and even the parents that we follow, the Tony or the Tony Collette and Adam Scott characters, like why didn't they pick up the baby? Like nobody picked up the baby.
Yeah.
So I felt so bad for that kid.
I know.
You never think that snowmen would be creepy.
No.
Right?
Well, I mean, I guess we have that whole series of Jack Frost. Is that a series of horror?
Yeah,
films?
but they're not. It's not creepy. It's just cheesy.
It's just kind of ridiculous.
These ones were creepy because they got closer to the house. There were more of them.
Yeah.
And it looked like, I think that there was a snowman for every dead person.
Oh, okay. Like every person who kind of got captured.
Each person that gets killed or captured by them, there's a snowman, because it looked like the little snowman looked like the kid's hat and.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So I think there's like a correlation there, but again, they don't spoon feed that to you, which I like. Like that's for us to think about. Movies need to do that more.
Yes, which is why I loved all the kind of creepy toy designs and stuff like that. So which is why I was a little bit disappointed with Krampus in terms of it just kind of looking like an unmoving mask. Right. Yeah.
Probably cheaper considering they had spent so much money on
everything else. Yeah.
They're like, okay, we were gonna make it move. We ran out of money. Just make it dead faced.
Yes, because we got these cookies. We got this Jack in the Box thing. Yeah.
Did you ever pause at the end when he opens the bag?
No.
For the grandma, there's a nutcracker in there. There's a bunny rabbit, I think. Like there's a bunch of other toys that you don't see that are his primary toys. So you should it's very much like the signage in Cabin in the Woods, or that board.
Oh, okay. Yeah, where you kind of see and read what's on there. Okay.
Right.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's one of those pausable moments, I think,
Yeah.
in movies where you can see what other critters are in Auntie Santa's bag. Auntie Santa.
Yeah. Anti-Santa.
Because that's what he is. He's literally anti-Santa. So.
Yes, and I love the ending. I love you wake up and you think everything's fine and everything has this nice kind of diffuse glow. It seems like a nice Christmas and everything's positive. And then as soon as he opens up that gift and pulls out that ornament, I love kind of this recognition. We're hearing, conversations and lines that happened throughout what had happened the night prior, and all of them just realizing that, oh my gosh, I think we all collectively thought we maybe dreamed this, but this actually happened. And then
Yep.
they just sit there in silence and we pan out to see what's really happening. It's so fun.
What I like to think of is that room that Krampus stores all those snow globes in is actually hell, because having to spend Christmas morning with your in-laws for eternity would be hell.
Yeah, probably.
It would be hell.
Despite this nice scene, but now that they've kind of realized what is actually happening,
Oh, it turns
it's
into
probably
chaos
not
when
that
we're
nice.
not watching. Like, it
Yeah.
becomes a nightmare in there.
Yeah.
People are beating each other up. There's more fighting, but eventually, like, you'd get exhausted and you'd be like, "Can we open the presents again?"
Yeah, let's just do this on a loop. Yeah.
And does time even move there?
Right? Because there's nothing outside, there's nothing around them. It's literally just that house in this little snow
Right,
globe.
in the
So
bowl. And if you went outside,
yeah,
you'd be like, very Wreck-It Ralph. You'd be like,
I can't go
I can't go
anywhere.
anywhere. And
Yeah.
I see another, I guess maybe even like the episode of Orville where they go to the human zoo, where
Yeah.
they're just there to be looked at. But you wouldn't be hungry because you're obviously being kept supernaturally.
In
And
this
think of it as
loop
like,
of
if you've
things.
never seen it, it's much like the Bottle City of Candor. They basically
Mhm.
bottled everybody and put them
Or
on
the end
shelves.
of the Saint Elsewhere series.
Yes. The series that connects all film and television together in one
Right.
giant prequel sequel dream fest. It's such a weird
Yeah.
thing. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to be like, it's all
Yes,
mine.
100%,
So
right?
everything
Yeah.
belongs to St. Elsewhere.
Yes.
Which is weird. And Denzel was in it, so that makes sense.
Yes,
Like, I don't know why, but that
exactly.
just like that follows.
Yes.
Even though he had nothing to do with that scene or anything. But he's still in it. Yeah, Krampus, man, is such a weird. I know a lot of people that don't like this movie.
Really? I
Yeah,
thought it was kind of very much like Trick or Treat in the Avenue, that people really loved it.
there are people that don't, that really are just like, it's dumb. There are people that don't. I know people that don't like movies that don't spell it out for you at the end. And while this kind of does, I think this is a very pretty clear ending.
Yeah, that,
It still
obviously they're still
leaves
being punished.
things
Yeah.
lofty, right? You don't know because
Yeah. If
maybe
this is a
maybe
dream
we're
within a
just dreaming.
dream. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the Men in Black ending where it's like not really canon, but like
It's
the
just
ball,
all this stuff
we're on
happening on a
marble.
keychain and
Yeah.
yeah, or a
So
marble,
like
yeah.
it could be something like that. But I know there are a lot of people that don't. They want the movie spelled out, and that's one of the reasons we've talked about that. Some previews just lay it all out for you because that's
They
who
think that's
those
what
movies
people
are for.
want. Oh, yeah.
And some people do. There are people I know that literally are like, I won't watch a movie unless I can see what happens in the preview, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I
Depending
don't
on
want to know
how
anything.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how the story goes and what the film is giving us and what it's trying to go for, I could definitely be down with an ambiguous ending. So, and I think this film
Right?
definitely works for that type of ending.
I agree. Because it's so lofty in the first place, it has to
Yeah.
have that kind of an ending. And we have two movies that have kind of like, whoa,
Yeah, these kind of zoom out, like,
what
kind of,
happened, right?
yeah,
In this
what
little
happened?
bottle, in a sense, they're both
Yes,
in a way bottle films
where
too. I
do we
didn't
go
think
from
about
here?
that. Not
Yeah.
that Black Christmas is totally, but they're both a little less bottle like each other because they go out into town on both a little bit, but
Yeah, but it's
primarily they take
mostly in
place.
one location. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And in both cases, well, in Krampus's case, it's literally a bottle film because they're
Yeah,
stuck in a bottle at
stuck
the
in,
end.
yeah.
If you bottle, loose interpretation of bottle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. And, and I know it's weird to do a Christmas movie in January, but Krampus is something I think I saw not at Christmas the first time. I was just like,
Yeah, me
watched
too.
it.
Yeah.
Because horror movies are horror
You
movies.
can watch them anytime. Yeah.
Right. How many times I've watched Trick or Treat not on Halloween?
Right?
So many times. Too many times. I don't think I can watch that movie anymore. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of when it comes to Krampus. We didn't even talk about Adam Scott at all, and I love him.
Oh, he's great. And I liked kind of his honesty with his son in terms of that scene when, after the letter gets read and he's like, we kind of just have to put up with these people, their family. And, maybe it just teaches us to, be more patient with people and learn how to, do better or love them, more the next time and that kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I appreciate him kind of being just like, this sucks. I know it sucks. I hear you, but it's just a lesson of life. It's just kind of how it is. So
Well, and
yeah.
he's a good dad because he defends his family to the literal end and
Yeah.
sacrifices himself. Knows he does too. Even the look on his face, I'm like, oh man, being a dad,
Yeah.
every time that happens, I'm like, I get that that's what I'm gonna be doing if this happens. Doesn't mean I have to like it, right? I don't have to.
Yeah. Yes.
Doesn't mean I have to love that that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Krampus is coming after me, but
Yeah, but no, I
not
mean, a
really.
big core thing that I do enjoy about movies like this is when it's like very tumultuous at the beginning, and then these kinds of incidences kind of bring people together
Mhm.
in really interesting ways, and have them find this common ground and balance where they were kind of really lost. And the hardest situation oddly brings them, closer together than they ever were when things were easy. So
Right. We really should have gone to my brother's.
right,
Just saying that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So Krampus. Next week, before we get to rating these films, because of course with only two of us, the show is just naturally a little shorter. Less opinions means less time. But next week we're going to have two special guests on the show. We're going to have the ladies from the Let Us In podcast. They are both horror to the core. They have been horror talkers and horror content creators for years now, and we have been mutuals. I think me and Janine both have been mutuals with them for a long time. And they're fantastic. They picked some pretty raunchy horror films. We'll be doing the David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And then we'll be doing The Substance with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. So, so some body horror, some really raunchy body horror, which is great. I love body horror; is one of my favorites. Actually, since I'll have to wear this next week too.
Yes, perfect.
Can't not put body horror out there when it's body horror. So we'll see. I haven't seen The Substance, so I'm excited. I've seen The Fly dozens of times.
I've never seen The Fly.
Wow. Okay, so I'm glad. That's great, actually. So, have you ever seen the original? Because I know you're big on classics.
Yes, I saw the Vincent Price one. Yes,
Okay.
but not
Okay, so you'll be able to compare. I've never seen the original, so maybe what I'll do is put the original on my list and get that watched before next week, so you and I can compare them to the original. Awesome. That's weird that you've never seen The Fly.
I know. I don't know why.
There's only so many movies that you can watch, right? Realistically, it's whatever the mood strikes and whatever order you watch them in. People are still like, "You've never seen The French Connection?" I'm like, "No, I've never seen The French Connection. I'm sorry." There's a lot of Oscar winners. I can't.
Oh yes. No, I mean, you talked about Orson Welles. I've never seen Citizen Kane. So.
If I could turn off my camera, no, I'm kidding. I would not do that.
It's been on the list for 100
I think
years.
I watched it 5 years ago for the first time. So I'm not going to judge by any means. Definitely worth the watch. Even if you don't like it, it's worth watching so you can be like, now I know what everybody's talking about, and they are either they're right or they're all wrong. Which you're going to fall into one of those two camps. I guess there's the third camp of indifference, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and also I like it's really interesting. I think me and Morgan were talking about this a little bit when we were covering some different films that actually had some writer directors that wasn't super common. So it'll be curious to kind of watch it in that vein of like that era, because it's so common now to have a writer director or writer actor director, kind of like
writer actor director, right?
Yes,
exactly.
in
Ben Affleck comes along, he's going to write it, he's going to direct it, he's going to be in it.
Yes, we covered a few films that had director actors, and so it'll be interesting to kind of finally watch that and see kind of what that looked like at that time, because it wasn't incredibly common.
Well, and a lot of people will claim that he's one of those people that came along, made this film, and then just kind of slipped downhill after that. I would argue that's not true, but it's more that he was trying to escape the bubble that people were trying to put him in. Which I get.
Yeah,
For the
you make
longest
this
time,
huge thing, and then to kind of have that to live up to is like,
right?
and you
Shyamalan
don't
has
put
had
that
the
on
same
yourself.
problem,
Other
right?
people
Shyamalan
put
has
that
had the
on you.
exact same
Oh,
problem. He
100%.
made
Yeah.
Sixth Sense, and everybody's expected that from him since.
Yeah, like, literally
Um,
after The Sixth Sense, wasn't he, like, on Time Magazine as, like, the next Spielberg was kind of what they
right.
put this moniker of on him, and then he kinda had to live up to that for the rest of his career.
And
He
now
didn't
he's
put that
the
name on himself, he just
right
made his
now he's
movie
the
and
with a twist guy, which is
yes, what a twist. Yeah.
which is sad. I won't even get into Trap. We don't need to go there. I considered making that one of my 2 movies, but then I was like, I don't need to spend 10 minutes trashing a movie. That's just rude. You can always check out what SniDBitS thinks about any movie, including Trap, on Letterboxd. I do all my reviews on there. Orson Welles, I used to get confused with H.G. Wells because
Okay.
Wells, you
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
And then also Orson did H.G. Wells on the
Oh, yeah.
radio, so it causes that confusion
Much
even
more
more.
confusion. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And of course, there's a lot of lore around the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, but I remember in the 90s, this is so kind of off the beaten path, but in the 90s, there was a TV movie that tried to do the same thing as the Orson Welles radio broadcast, but
Mhm.
with TV broadcast, and they were like, aliens are invading, blah, 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 and all these things.
Yeah.
And it flopped so
Oh
hard.
my
And I laughed because I was like, oh, I see what they're trying to do. Right when
Yeah.
they tried to, we were too sophisticated for that. Like, they tried that in the 30s and it worked. I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to be so
You're gonna
gullible,
no,
you know,
to
once
go
we've
for that
seen
again.
80s movies, man. 80s movies made us so
Ye
cynical and so prepared for everything.
Yeah.
Now you got to
Sucked
break
all the
through
fun out of
that,
it.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's, yeah. Just, Anyway, what do you rate Krampus?
I give this movie a 9. I always have a lot of fun with it. I love the cast. I love the spooky aspects of it. Just loses that 1 point for just not fully loving the commitment to Krampus.
If he
They could have
emoted,
gone.
you'd be
They
like,
could
it might be a
They could have
10.
gone harder in
Yeah.
in the look of Krampus.
Well,
I think.
especially when, you know, you got Sam, who is the opposite of that. He comes to life with his mask off. And
Yes,
he's like, "Wah," you know, and he's a
exactly.
crazy pumpkin head, you know.
Yes, and
Um,
if you juxtapose those 2 big now known holiday figures, yeah, definitely could have gone harder with the Krampus look.
right. I'm gonna definitely go with a 9 as well. This is a solid flick. I like it every time I watch it. It had been a while because it's
Yeah,
one of
me
those
too.
ones I didn't want to overwatch it because it's fun. Of course, I still find myself getting, oh, these people. I hate these people. I hate them. I hate
Yes.
them.
Yes.
But like you said, to build that hate, and I always like to call it out. When you hate an actor, they're doing a damn good job.
Good
Like,
job.
they're
Yes.
doing a good job, so you should respect what they're giving you. When you hate them,
Yes.
you should turn around and say, "You are so good."
Yes.
Not,
You
"I
did
hate
such a
you."
good job.
Right?
Yes.
Um,
100%.
and they do. So I put them in my, you know, evil actors, amazing character, or amazing actors, evil characters trope that I've
Yeah.
built. So okay, 2 9s. That means we rated an 8 and a 9. I think we're going to do the average. Like I said, next week more horror. Can't go wrong with the Real Study. We do a lot of horror here, but we'll do everything else as well. There is one other thing I didn't get to announce. We are going to be having Mr. Marvelite on the show next month. I just talked to
Oh,
him.
nice.
And he was like, have you guys seen Alien Romulus? And I was like, we have not done Romulus yet. So he's like, well, what do you want to do with it? And I was, you pick. So he wants to do Alien and Romulus, Alien Romulus. So the original and Romulus. And I don't think that Lala has seen Alien. So that will be
Really?
fantastic. Yeah.
Oh,
I just don't think
nice.
she's gone through that series much.
No, Brian will be very happy.
Right? I also, like, if I'm going to pick a sci-fi horror, it's going to go to The Thing. And then Alien comes in right after that.
Yeah.
So, and not Predator. Like, it's still good, but it's
Yeah.
not Alien.
No, it's not the same, but it's fun.
Oh, that movie. Anyway, this has been episode 15 of season 4 of The Real Study. We really appreciate you guys stopping by, and we will see you next week. Have a great evening.